Is sex Satan's best playing field? Or have the forces of evil already won the morality culture wars, and now Satan is moving on to other issues like the rejection of truth, or racism, or even climate change? Hi, I'm Rex Rogers, and this is episode number 158 of Discerning What is Best, a podcast applying unchanging biblical principles in a rapidly changing world and a Christian worldview to current issues and everyday life. As I've noted before, gender fluidity, the idea sex is changeable, or what's now called transgenderism, is the current cultural soup du jour. It's everywhere and seems to have become an outright unstoppable juggernaut. We hear that people finding their real sex as opposed to their born-this-way biological sex is some kind of great brave new world. But sadly, it is not. We hear this controversy is about sex. But it's not really about sex, certainly not just sex. It's about identity, who we are. Trans ideology is not about lust or licentiousness. It's about declaring that human beings can create their truth, be their own gods. It's about idolatry. If male and female are simply arbitrary categories, then anything goes. Morality, modesty, masculine and feminine don't really exist. We're all just some hybrid social construct. It's true that for a variety of reasons, men or women have dressed or passed, as they say, as the other sex for centuries. It is only in our lifetime that the idea a man or woman can actually become the other sex, and in so doing embrace their real sex, has seemingly been made possible via hormone therapy and the surgical technology to remove or reconstruct sexual organs. But even these so-called treatments are secondary to the heart and mind, proclaiming me, I decide who I am. While the first documented male-to-female sex reassignment surgery took place in 1930, the word transgender, which came into wider use in the 1990s after public health officials adopted it, is often used as an umbrella term for all the rejections of the norm, from cross-dressers who are generally happy in their assigned gender to transsexuals. Since the 1990s, in an astonishingly rapid fashion, the American populace has adopted a normalized view of LGBTQ, and more recently argued transgenderism is a civil rights matter. Until 2013, gender dysphoria, confusion about one's sexuality, was categorized as a disorder, not a dysphoria, by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. The World Health Organization, WHO, did not move gender incongruence from mental disorders to sexual health issues until 2019. In 2014, Time issued a cover entitled The Transgender Tipping Point, America's Next Civil Rights Frontier. Two developments in 2015 acted like critical mass for transgender momentum. The Supreme Court of the United States case Obergefell v. Hodges, giving same-sex couples the right to marry, and Olympic gold medalist Bruce, call me Caitlyn, Jenner's Vanity Fair cover. Then in 2016, the Obama administration Department of Education redefined sex in Title IX to include gender identity, making it a civil rights issue. The Departments of Education and Justice required all sex-segregated facilities to be based on gender identity, not biological sex. The Biden administration, with the president saying to LGBTQ people, "I've got your back," consistently advocates for legal changes giving trans individuals, a person born male, identifying as female, or born female, identifying as male, access to sex-segregated events, services, facilities, and sports competitions. American taxpayers now must pay for gender reassignment surgery for active military personnel or veterans who opt for it. Disney is adding queer characters in children's programming and is changing its long-standing greeting, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls," from its Magic Kingdom fireworks show to "Good evening, dreamers of all ages," to promote what it calls inclusivity. The Cartoon Network is normalizing gender pronouns. Its comic strip states, "We can't tell someone's gender just by looking at them, and we shouldn't assume we know. There are many gender identities beyond girl or boy. Some people don't identify as any gender. This is considered children's programming. California inmates may now request prisons aligned with their gender choices, no matter their biological sex, and once there are eligible for costly taxpayer-supported gender reassignment surgery. University athletics personnel are pressuring the NCAA to withdraw or not schedule collegiate athletic events in states that have passed bills requiring athletes to compete in sports befitting their biological sex. More than 25 states are considering or have passed such bills, labeled by the press as anti-trans athlete legislation. The NFL issued a video saying, "Football is gay. Football is transgender." Of course, it's easy to virtue signal corporate activism a la profit motive with a rainbow-colored NFL logo because transgender athletes aren't going head-to-head in competition like they are beginning to do in other sports. Serious concerns are being expressed by LGB athletes that allowing transgender athletes into women's competitions will destroy women's sports. Some fear Title IX will be eviscerated. Several prominent female athletes have spoken out against relaxing the traditional standards, arguing the ramifications will be drastic for women's sports. Connecticut is one of 17 states that allow transgender high school athletes to compete without restrictions. We're told the idea that men are stronger athletes than women, or that sex is binary, is due to misogyny and white supremacy. But it's gender madness. LGBTQ demands are on a collision course with religious liberty. Transgenderism politics aggressively attacks the authority of Scripture, often indirectly by repositioning words like accepting, love, inclusive, or tolerance. They call disagreement hate or bigotry. In American culture, as touted by LGBTQ plus activists and others in the so-called woke universe, Christianity is increasingly seen as optional, hateful, bigoted, discriminatory, repressive, malevolent, irrelevant, or unnecessary. LGBTQ plus cannot accomplish activist ideological or worldview goals until religion, including Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, is marginalized or legally banished from cultural influence. Gender ideology and biblical Christianity can only coexist in a First Amendment society, something activists have not so far demonstrated they can accept. The rapid success transgenderism has achieved in just a handful of years puts America farther down this road than any other country in the Western world. While religious liberty is at stake in this all-out cultural war to eradicate all influence of biblical values in our culture, Christians tend to look upon transgenderism as just a matter of morality. It is that, but much more. We are in a cultural moment in which gender ideology is directly challenging the legitimacy of the Judeo-Christian heritage of the American system. Gender ideology is not simply questioning the Bible or the church or religion, but the foundational American ideals that help secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. If parties, political parties, become a big tent of moral relativism, who will fight for transmission of the values that sustain life and freedom? Not to resist, not to speak the truth in love, not to reason, not to stand in the gap defending life, dignity, freedom, and hope, is to give in to the irrationality, idolatry, division, destruction, and death of transgenderism. Well, we'll see you again soon. This podcast is about discerning what is best. If you find this thought-provoking and helpful, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Download an episode for your friends. For more Christian commentary, check my website, REXM as in Martin. That's rexmrogers.com. And remember, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm.